Welcome back to the Budget Gamer channel. Today we're going to be taking a look at Nefarious. Nefarious is another one of those old school style indies that was originally released on Steam that eventually made its way over to the Switch. But unlike many of those other indies, this one has a really unique dynamic. In Nefarious, you're not just playing as a roguish hero or a bad guy, you're playing as the end boss. Calling back to those amazing classics from the 8-bit and 16-bit era days, you as the main anti-hero Crow seek world domination through those old school classic big boss fights. The overall story being that Crow, the world's most villainous supervillain, has discovered the hidden secret of the power of princesses and must therefore capture 5 of them in order to bring his world-ending death howitzer to life. Navigating the overworld map in your flying doom ship, you'll navigate from country to country in order to kidnap princesses, or princes, or any crazy laboratory experiment that might fit the bill. However, as enticing as this game sounds, it does have a few flaws. The primary flaw being mainly with the sales pitch that you're not always playing as the endgame boss. Most of the game does consist of Mega Man style platforming, jumping around in order to capture the princesses, and only after having done so do you don your endgame boss battle attire to battle it out boss style. However, if this were the only flaw, it would be completely forgivable. However, there are 2 things that are fundamental to any platformer, and that is well-designed jump and attack mechanics. And if you have played games like Tales or Ikimu, you know that not having one or either of those is absolutely detrimental to gameplay. Now, while Nefarious isn't nearly as broken as either one of the aforementioned games, floatiness and sponginess of its jump mechanic is really difficult to get used to, and can have you missing jump points or falling off platforms very easily. Regarding the attack dynamics though, it's not really that bad, but there are a few points to note. First and foremost being that your character is static, but enemy characters, especially the flying ones, are able to zip around the map in relation to your own moves, staying just out of reach, and additionally their hitboxes are kind of more guesswork. If you do buy the assault weapon upgrades, you'll really see what I mean. But if you are using grenades as your ranged weapon, you'll sacrifice some range, but that guesswork in the hitbox really won't be an issue. The next thing for consideration is probably going to be the audio soundtrack. Though the music is light and it generally does fit the tone of each of the levels you'll be playing through, each of the soundtrack files is rather short. So if you do spend your time on a level, you might notice it looping several times. But the real note for the audio is actually not with the soundtrack, but with the actual sound effects portfolio. And while sound effects generally aren't something that you notice in a game, you do notice when they're not there or when they're not well executed. Punching with your giant purple metal fist, which is your main attack, doesn't actually make a sound unless you make contact or you equip the explosion modifier. Likewise, your ranged weapons don't have a sound effect except for the explosion. And while this really doesn't matter all too much, what really does matter is that the enemy's attacks don't have sound effects either. And while this may sound a bit nitpicky, when you do get into situations that are a bit more like a bullet hell, knowing that you're being fired at and having specific sound cues for specific types of enemy fire can make all the difference in the world. But moving on past some of these mechanical flaws and some of the soundtrack issues, Nefarious is a pretty great experience and a really unique game, even if it is a game that has some hang-ups. Battling through the game as a comically evil protagonist and capturing and maintaining multiple princesses all with their own unique personalities aboard your ship produces its own level of comedy within the dialogue. But beyond this, there's a lot more to the game than just trying to end the world. Sidequest to find sunken treasures to recover a nation's economy, starring in Who Wants to Date a Supervillain on TV, and assisting in war and or peace efforts between warring nations are only some of the unique aspects of the game in addition to its overall plot. And if there's anything that I prize in an indie, it's its uniqueness. So despite the fact that I initially wrote it off as kind of a Tales, sitting down and playing the game was actually really fun. So I'd have to say that if you're into platformers, if you're into unique stories or unique indies, or if you've ever wondered what it would be like to pilot that giant mech as a boss at the end of a level, Nefarious may be a game that you'd at least want to be aware of. Well, that wraps up the review of Nefarious on the Switch eShop. So if you enjoyed the review or found it helpful, feel free to throw me a like or a comment to show your support. And don't forget to click that little bell icon when you subscribe to stay updated with the latest content. There are new and unique indies coming out almost every day, so there's always going to be something new to find right here. But anyway, this has been Budget Gamer, so as always, thanks for watching.